Hey, welcome back to part 2. In the first video, we looked at the powerful and continuing expressions of nationalism, the disdain for the importance of human rights, the identification of enemies and scapegoats as a unifying cause, embrace of militarism, and rampant sexism. The next topic we'll look at is a controlled mass media, and I'll point out that there will be some just reoccurring themes that go back to the previous topics we've covered in the clips we'll play. A controlled mass media. Under some of the regimes, the mass media were under strict direct control and could be relied upon to never stray from the party line. Other regimes exercised more subtle power to ensure media orthodoxy. Methods included the control of licensing and access to resources, economic pressure, appeals to patriotism, and implied threats. The leaders of mass media were often politically compatible with the power elite. The result was usually success in keeping the general public unaware of the regime's excesses. The clips we'll watch highlight the police abuse against the press and the rhetoric Trump used to support it. As evidence that Trump required news outlets to toe the party line, I just want to highlight quickly how he encouraged his followers to stop watching Fox News once he started getting some light pushback from Chris Wallace and others. He encouraged people to switch to OAN or Newsmax, which were two very clearly more propagandized versions of what they call news.
I can tell you this didn't happen under President Trump. And I know there's a lot of people on the left that want to try to blame President Trump. He wanted out of Afghanistan real bad. He was real frustrated not being able to get out. But he didn't pull out because he knew this would happen. In fact, we all did. I called it on this program. My 12-year-old son knew about it. And so I've got Americans there that are stuck. To me, that's a hostage situation. But, Joe, I appreciate you working to get them out. I really do. Yeah. And I wish you all luck in the world
with due respect,
thank you for...
With due respect, Grant, I mean, like, veterans, being one, right, and our friends are over there.
Right.
We followed this closely for multiple administrations, and we know that Trump's administration's efforts here were fairly weak, that they were trying to limit the number of people that would get out. And so there was coordination problems.
Joe, I'm gonna cut you. I'm already weak. I'm already low on time, Joe. Joe, cut him off, please. Cut him off now. Cut him off now. You're not going to blame this on President Trump on my show.
That escalated quickly. So that's Newsmax. And please, seriously, spare a thought for the challenge they face every business day, having to program an entire network for just one single viewer.
First of all, just a hilarious dunk by Brian Williams. And second of all, when Brian Stolen Valor Williams is dunking on you for journalistic integrity, clearly you're not a legitimate source of news.
These are just dishonest, terrible people. I'm telling you that. Terrible people. Not all of them. Honestly, not all of them. I'd say 85%.
More to the point, in recent months, President Trump has said and tweeted that fake news and the fake news media are the enemy of the American people. Like this tweet from February, where he declares the fake news media is not my enemy, it is the enemy of the American people. And this over the course of his administration.
We are fighting the fake news. It's fake, phony, fake.
It's frankly disgusting the way the press is able to write whatever they want to write.
A few days ago, I called the fake news the enemy of the people, and they are. They are the enemy of the people.
That message may have resonated with some folks like Robert Chain, who are accused of ingesting the president's message and taking action to attack the enemy. Prosecutors say Chain made 14 threatening phone calls to the Boston Globe newsroom. On August 16th, Chain allegedly used the same language as the president when he allegedly told an employee, "You're the enemy of the people and we're going to kill every expletive one of you. I'm going to shoot you in the expletive head later today at 4 o'clock. The call came the same day the Boston Globe published this front-page editorial calling on newspapers across the country to condemn President Trump's constant attacks on the press.
The president says things like enemies of the people, and then people call the Boston Globe newsroom repeating those very words. That should be deeply alarming to everyone.
Now they're.
Gosh.
That's a photographer.
That's
going on now.
A member of the press.
Now there's just a lot of violence erupting.
We've just had to run about a block as police moved in. We've been fired at with rubber bullets. My cameraman has been hit. We've also seen tear gas being used. Here we go, they're moving through again. This is exactly what it looks like. Exactly what it looks like. We're just staying safely.
Oh.
Whoa. Oh.
Amelia, can you hear us?
Amelia, are you okay? Or your cameraman?
They're not discriminating between protesters and the media here. Amelia, can you hear us yet?
Amelia, are you there?
You heard us.
Are you okay?
Yes, I am. I am. You heard us yelling there that we were media, but they don't care. They're being indiscriminate at the moment. They chased us down that street, and as you see, they were firing these rubber bullets at everyone. There is tear gas, and now we are really surrounded by the police, and you really saw the way that they dealt with my cameraman, Tim. They're quite violent, and they do not care who they're targeting at the moment.
Which street are you on? What direction are they forcing the crowd?
I am on the sidewalk of H Street, just north of Lafayette Square, which is just north of the White House. So essentially, these police you see right here, and they're advancing again. And now they're.
Gosh.
You see what's
a photographer.
That's
going on now.
A member of the press.
Now there's just a lot.
Why is it important for you to be seen by the people of Wisconsin now?
Because I am a tremendous fan of law enforcement, and I want to thank the law enforcement. They've done a good job. And when the governor says that I shouldn't come or he'd prefer that I not come, I'm going to come. I'm the one that called him and said, Tony, you got to bring out the National Guard. Well, I don't really want to do it. Tony, you got to bring it out. And unlike your governor of Oregon that just keeps saying no, he agreed to it at least.
So in the first clip, we have another example of Trump's rhetoric directly leading to violence. The second clip is Trump's enabling and supporting of the police also leading to violence. The third clip, sorry for splicing that up like that, but these are just hard to watch, and I at least wanted to put a little joke in there. And that's in no way meant to undermine the seriousness of the topic, but again, just drive home the point of just how absurd it is that a clown like Donald Trump is able to be taken seriously, and just also drive home the point of the consequences of what happens when he's taken seriously. The next trait is obsession with national security. Inevitably, a national security apparatus was under direct control of the ruling elite. It was usually an instrument of oppression, operating in secret and beyond any constraints. Its actions were justified under the rubric of protecting national security, and questioning those activities was portrayed as unpatriotic or even treasonous. As I mentioned in the intro, there's going to be some recurring themes throughout all of these clips. Again, here we have the scapegoating of undocumented immigrants being posed as a threat to national security. ICE, since being emboldened by Trump's rhetoric and just generally more funded by Trump's direct actions in office, they as a group have been pushing the limits of abiding by the Fourth Amendment, which of course is the protection from illegal search and seizure. ICE's growing disregard for the Fourth Amendment and conservative judges consistently ruling in favor of ICE clearly show a force that is operating both as an oppressor and increasingly without constraints.
My fellow Americans, tonight I am speaking to you because there is a growing humanitarian and security crisis at our southern border. Every day, Customs and Border Patrol agents encounter thousands of illegal immigrants trying to enter our country. We are out of space to hold them, and we have no way to promptly return them back home to their country. America proudly welcomes millions of lawful immigrants who enrich our society and contribute to our nation. But all Americans are hurt by uncontrolled illegal migration. It strains public resources and drives down jobs and wages.
Need to clear up some misconceptions here. There's a misconception that undocumented immigrants circumvent legal immigration just because they don't feel like doing paperwork. According to the Cato Institute, the average wait for family and work visas was 2 years and 10 months in 1991. Fast forward to 2019, and that wait had doubled to 5 years and 8 months. In 2018, 28% of those who acquired work and family visas waited more than 10 years. The argument that undocumented immigration is rampant and out of control is irresponsible if you ignore the fact that many people have to wait 10 years or more to get visas. Secondly, the cap for refugee immigration was 110,000 per year when Trump came into office. Trump decreased that cap all the way down to 18,000 throughout his tenure in office. You cannot support Trump and, by extension, coup planner John Bolton while still complaining that refugees are unwelcome in the United States. Third, if undocumented immigration drives down wages, then why is punishment being doled out to the immigrants and not the business owners who both set the wages and hired the undocumented workers to begin with? This is because, of course, behind closed doors, the Republicans in power don't mind undocumented workers because it is a group of people who can be bullied by the exalted job creators. And I use exalted as a dig there because it's a ridiculous term. Anyways, the bullying of undocumented workers can include harassment, unsafe conditions, no overtime pay, less than minimum wage, among other abuses. And the documented workers have no recourse to correct these abuses because they are one phone call away from ICE from being deported. Next, Trump will make the argument that our southern border is enabling the flow of drugs. This despite the fact that more drugs come in through legal ports of entry. Just ask Mitch McConnell and Elaine Chao about their family coal business getting caught shipping cocaine in 2014. Trump is again trying to slander Latino immigrants as criminals. I also want to point out that police officers can charge you for assault if you were to close the door on their foot as they enter your house without a warrant. So Trump's claim of rampant assault among ICE apprehensions should be taken with a huge grain of salt.
Our southern border is a pipeline for vast quantities of illegal drugs, including meth, heroin, cocaine, and fentanyl. Every week, 300 of our citizens are killed by heroin alone, 90% of which floods across from our southern border. More Americans will die from drugs this year than were killed in the entire Vietnam War. In the last 2 years, ICE officers made 266,000 arrests of aliens with criminal records, including those charged or convicted of 100,000 assaults, 30,000 sex crimes, and 4,000 violent killings. Over the years, thousands of Americans have been brutally killed by those who illegally entered our country, and thousands more lives will be lost if we don't act right now.
If we want to punish someone for the drug crisis in America, that should be none other than the Purdue family, who advertised OxyContin as a non-addictive painkiller and also wanted to come out with a line of OxyContin for kids. That's besides the point, though. Here, Trump is clearly arguing that Latino immigrants pose a threat to our national security and that ICE is the solution to solving that threat. As I mentioned in the intro, there would be some recurring themes. Here we have the scapegoating of undocumented immigrants being posed as a threat to national security. Also, ICE, since being emboldened by Trump's rhetoric, have been pushing the limits of abiding by the Fourth Amendment. ICE's growing disregard for the Fourth Amendment and conservative judges ruling in favor of ICE clearly show that ICE as a force is operating as an oppressor and increasingly operating without constraint.
Across the country, the Trump administration crackdown is sparking protests as federal ICE agents begin an operation reportedly looking to arrest and deport up to 2,000 undocumented immigrants in major U.S. cities.
We are really specifically looking for bad players, but we're also looking for people that came into our country not through a process. They just walked over a line. They have to leave.
It's time to kind of step out and take care of everybody.
For 25 minutes, ICE agents in Kansas City tried to make the arrest.
I still have rights.
But when Florencio Milan Vasquez refused to get out of his car, agents smashed his window and dragged him out, while his small children cried in the back seat and his partner recorded the incident. Today, she spoke out.
I just want people to know that this is happening in our community, that this is real, and it can happen to anybody.
Every federal officer is now immune from personal liability for violating the constitutional rights of a citizen of the United States.
Did you hear those words come out of your mouth?
I did. Scary, isn't it?
Is it?
Oh, it's damn scary. Damn scary.
Attorney Greg Bose represents Robert Boulay, the owner of Smuggler's Inn in Blaine, and took the case through the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. He says this week's Supreme Court ruling is a disappointment with consequences reaching far beyond the inn on the Canadian border.
It's not just Mr. Boulay who's in the sights of rogue Border Patrol agents anymore. It's the entire U.S. population.
What is so different? This was a search of somebody on an unlawful search on private property.
This week, the U.S. Supreme Court halted Boulay's efforts to sue the border agent for allegedly using excessive force and violating his civil rights. The court's majority argued that Congress should instead legislate how and when citizens can sue.
There's a track record of abuses at the border, unfortunately, and this makes it much harder to hold people accountable.
National security is also one of several other arguments that swayed 6 justices to side with the agent. 3 justices dissented, insisting this ruling leaves citizens with no meaningful recourse should agents violate First or Fourth Amendment rights and other civil liberties. Border agents patrol the area 100 miles into the interior where 200 million Americans live, and they often exercise broader power beyond local law enforcement. The Supreme Court's ruling worries civil rights advocates who say those who worry their rights may have been violated are left with filing a complaint with the Border Patrol without a chance to ever argue in court.
It's scary that people who have the kind of power that officers have and Customs and Border Patrol have these extra powers that I talked about, there really need to be stronger accountability mechanisms. And this really waters them down.
ICE was empowered to operate without the usual oversights required. Often ICE would say that they have a warrant, when in reality it was an administrative warrant that did not require a judge's signature. In Egbert v. Boulay, Scottus found that the courts cannot set a precedent that suing federal agencies is allowed. This despite the 1971 precedent set by Bivens v. 6 unknown named agents, those being federal agents. So essentially, ICE is theoretically bound to the Fourth Amendment, but if they violate it, you are not allowed to sue for damages. Therefore, the ruling, in essence, eliminated the little consequence that ICE faced for abusing the Fourth Amendment. Next, we'll look at the forced sterilizations that were occurring at an ICE prison in Georgia. These heinous, racist policies started to enter into the territory of genocide. If they had been more widespread, then it would have constituted a full-on genocide.
Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The Quarantine Report. I'm Amy Goodman. At least 19 women have now come forward to allege they were pressured into unnecessary gynecological treatment and surgeries, including procedures that left them sterile, while they were imprisoned by Immigration and Customs Enforcement at the Irwin County Detention Center in Georgia. The women are mostly Black and Latina. They were all patients of Dr. Mahendra Amin, the primary gynecologist linked to the jail. In a shocking new report submitted to Congress Thursday, an independent medical review team of 9 board-certified OBGYNs and 2 nursing experts examined more than 3,200 pages of the women's medical records and said they found a lack of informed consent and a, quote, disturbing pattern of questionable gynecological surgical procedures. Today, they'll present their findings to the Senate Democratic Caucus. This comes after whistleblowing nurse Dawn Wooten first spoke out in September about an alarmingly high rate of hysterectomies performed on women at the ICE jail, prompting congressional and federal investigations. An ICE spokesperson said the allegations in the new report raise, quote, serious concerns that deserve to be investigated quickly and thoroughly. Meanwhile, the private prison company that operates Irwin, LaSalle Corrections, said it could not comment during the pending investigation.
Joe Biden has failed the American people, ladies and gentlemen. I just went to go vote on the House floor. I am a citizen of the United States of America, an elected member of Congress, and I had to go through more security to go vote representing my district than illegal aliens have to go through to invade our country every single day by the thousands. You know what Joe Biden could have done when he became president of the United States? He could have left the border alone, because President Trump had everything in place to secure our border and keep our country safe. We just needed to finish the wall, continue to support Border Patrol and ICE, continue to arrest criminals and deport them. But no, Joe Biden has to make this about climate change and tell lies that people have to come to our country because of climate change. That is the biggest lie ever told. And no, it's not the election. It's climate change. People aren't invading our country because of climate change. They're invading our country because they want our jobs and our American lives. And that's the truth. You don't have to read, you don't have to know anything to see the truth that's happening every single day at the southern border. These are the facts.
This whole series could just be Marjorie Taylor Greene clips, but her existence is just the long-deceased canary in the coal mine for the existence of fascism in the MAGA movement. Which is to say, fascism is more widespread than her idiocy. Speaking of idiocy, it is hilarious to me that MTG thinks immigrants can't read. The only way she could pass a citizenship test were if the test only focused on the contents of QAnon message boards. More to the point, though, MTG is stating that the border is a national security concern and that Joe Biden is harming America by not honoring the prestigious, in her mind, organization of ICE, which is complete bullshit, as we've seen. The clips of ICE we showed are just the tip of the iceberg. There are more clips and even more abuses that don't even get recorded. In the next video, we'll look at how fascists tie their religion into their authority. Please like the video, subscribe if you haven't, and thanks for watching.
Yeah.